Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome back to the LZ Sports Show. I'm Mark Adam, just one of your hosts today. I will be joined by some folks in a second, but first I want to let you know you can follow us on all the social medias. You can hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, obviously, because that's probably where you're watching this. We're also on Twitch. Love that. We do, when we stream live, we try and go live to YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook all at the same time. And we try and keep things happening on our social medias. We just got control of our Twitter account back. Thank you, Twitter, for taking 3 months to do something that should have taken like 10 minutes. But it's fine. It's fine. We're not bitter. We don't have a favorite social media.
No.
And if we did, it wouldn't be Twitter, but it doesn't matter. The WPG Sports Line is also somewhere you can reach us, 431-800-4555. You can call or text, leave a voice message with your thoughts. We can use those on future episodes. Or, like I said, you can I love debating sports and talking sports and all that kind of stuff, so hit us up there and we'll chat. You can also email us. The LZ at thewpg.ca is where to do that. If you are somebody that likes to advertise your business, if you're a local business, we love supporting local. We have great rates on ads and things if you're local. So call us 431-489-2401 or email ads at thewpg.ca. Without further ado, I should probably introduce my guests. First of all, you know this guy. This is Mr. Keith McKnight.
Hello there. How are you? Good to be back.
Yeah, good to have you back, sir. And we've also got this other fellow over here who is a neutral zoner all the way from Reddit, keeping himself anonymous with our face-shifting technology. So welcome to the show, everybody. This is going to be a fun one, I think. So where are we all at? How have you been? I haven't talked to Zoner in a while. I missed you last week. Keith, how have you been?
Good. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great on my end. Mr. Zoner, sir?
I've been good. I've been in summer mode, so it's doing outdoor activities and not thinking much about ice or other winter things. It's been good. Yeah, getting sunburned, and things are opening up too, so it's good. Getting up to do stuff.
Excellent. So we're glad to have you here. I had your name wrong at the beginning. I had you listed as Kerry, but I fixed it. Now it says neutral zoner, as it should. So there we go. Awesome. Let's get into this. So let's talk Jets. First of all, I did the whole thing last week on my own, talking about the trade, the draft and all that kind of stuff. But I want to get your opinions. So let's start with the neutral zoner. You're all the way out there in Vancouver, but you're obviously the Winnipeg fan and you keeping track of everything. So what did you think was, first of all, what did you think of in general, all the moves made by Chevy to this point? And then we'll start narrowing it down from there. So in general, has he been doing a good job, do you figure?
All the moves, yes, definitely, because he addressed the Jets' biggest weakness, and he did it with budget in mind, but also team chemistry maybe. And he also picked the guy in the draft with the coolest name, Chaz Lucius.
My God, that guy sounds like a rapper or something.
Exactly. Even if he plays 0 games in NHL, he was chosen, and the Jets have Chaz Lucius in their history now.
That's so crazy. Whoa, that's not the right button.
Where's Keith? Keith, you used to add another name to your.
I was going to say, thank you so much. I have to put that on the list.
Chaz Lucius.
Yeah.
I just added Kermit Alexander this week.
Yeah. The rest of the, well, we can talk about the draft a little bit later, but I think the rest of the draft for the Jets is a bit of a reach, like kind of like a shots in the dark, and hopefully they turn out. But right now they're in win now mode, right?
Yeah. And they were criticized, or Chevy, I suppose, was criticized quite heavily after the draft because of the lack of blue liners that he took, given that that's the position that we need the most filling in. But if you know anything about Chevy, he's not going to draft D-liners and then put them in the lineup this year. So that wouldn't have helped us anyway. So what he did was drafted who he thought was, going to be a long-term help to us, and then he waited for the free agency to make his defensive maneuvers. So, but before we move on to that, Keith, your perspective on how Chevy has dealt with both the draft and the free agency?
I think he's done very well. I got to agree when Zoner, as soon as he said the budget in mind, that's, he didn't put them in any salary cap penalties or anything like that. So that's really good that he put that in mind. He protected a lot of people as well that I was surprised that he did. Like, for example, with him moving on from Tucker Pullman being exposed in the expansion draft, but we can eventually get to that. But overall, no, I think he did very well as well. Overall, to agree with Zoner there.
All right. So then let's talk about who is the best ad that Winnipeg made.
Nate Schmidt.
Okay. And I agree with you. I think that was a great move. I think he's going to do good things here. I think he's going to have a really positive effect on the Winnipeg Blue Line. Zoner, do you agree or disagree?
Brendan Dillon.
Nice.
Brendan
No,
Dillon's your guy.
Yep, he's my guy. Because I think he fills the bigger weakness, which is size and a defensive presence on the blue line. Something that Forbert was meant to bring, but didn't bring it consistently. Dillon plays big. He plays tough. And I remember him, being in Vancouver. We used to see him a lot when the Canucks would go play San Jose. And he is he's not flashy, but he definitely lets you know when he's on the ice because he's a hitter. Doesn't get a lot of penalties, which is good. Schmidt, again, another Vancouver thing is that he played 1 year here on the Canucks and quickly fell out of favor with the coaching staff for whatever reason. And it wasn't anything super obvious. But as the year went on, he saw that he was his ice time was less and less, and he wasn't always paired up with like the best guys. And there's some fans who think he kind of quit in the team a bit. I don't know if that's true. I don't think that's true, but who knows? But if any of you saw his media availability, he seems like one of those Energizer Bunny kind of guys. So maybe it's not true, but then again, maybe he's just overcompensating, and maybe when he loses, he's a totally different guy. I don't know, but we'll see. So I think Brendan Dillon for me is a safer pick because I know for sure on the ice he fills a lot of the gaps the Jets had. Their D was way too small, and they didn't have any big guys that Paul Maurice was willing to trust with ice time. But Brendan Dillon, being a 30-year-old veteran, I'm pretty sure he'll get Maurice's trust right away.
And like obviously we've always talked about how Pomo prefers the veterans to the non-vets, the rookies and the younger kids. But 30 years old, he's not over the hill by any stretch. He's in what a lot of people consider that prime veteran sort of stage. And I think you're right. I think he's going to offer a lot of experience that Pomo is going to really enjoy. But I think the most exciting trade and maybe a bit of a wild card is how Nate Schmidt's going to fit in. I really think he will do good things here. I think he's got the talent. He's got the understanding. He knows what his job is, and he goes and he does it. I'm not sure what all happened in Vancouver because it's hard to follow a team that you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
I did see flashes where Schmidt, in terms of like skill level and skating, like he's got it all. Like he's not as I think of Pionka as almost like ballet on ice. Like he's just like effortless. So he's not quite there, but he's still an excellent skater and a good puck mover.
Yeah,
but
and
whatever reason, Vancouver just didn't seem to work for him. Yeah.
So then, who's the biggest loss that we've suffered with Frenchie? Perreault is out. He signed with Montreal. We lost Mason Appleton to the expansion draft in Seattle. We lost Tucker Pullman. Sorry.
And him and Tanev reunited there.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's good. It's not like he's going to know zero faces. But it's crazy that people are picking Seattle to come out of that division second, according to some of the stats, and I think that's crazy. And you know who they're right behind? Vegas. Vegas is favored to win that division, and Seattle right behind them in second place. So the two newest teams in the league having quite a bit of success. Now that said, it remains to be seen if Seattle can repeat what Vegas did year one. But again, back to my question here. Who do we think the biggest loss was for us? Which one player? And I'm going to let you two debate this. So let me know which one you guys think. Let's start with Keith.
After I just looked it up before the show and I saw his name, Eric Comrie, like, why is this guy coming in and out of this organization? Why?
Oh, no, he's here. He stayed. The Jets signed him, didn't they?
That's what I mean. But like, never mind. Never mind. Okay, so I misread that. Okay, I misread that. Zoner, you pick this one up. Let me go back to my.
we lost Laurent Brossois. That's who we lost. So they signed Comrie.
LB is out.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I mistook that. Yes.
Yeah, Lobro is out. I think one of the interesting things about this offseason is that the losses aren't that huge. So biggest loss is probably Appleton in terms of potential and the fact that he was, third line forward who sometimes filled in second. But in terms of replacements, well, we got a lot of young forwards just waiting to get up here, right? Like Harkins and guys who can do that. So
don't forget Vesalainen.
And Vesalainen, yes, I forgot his name, but yeah, Vesalainen's bigger, stronger, he's got a better shot, right?
Yeah.
So maybe it's time for Vesalainen. Like this is the same way that when we lost. I'm forgetting everyone now. I really am in summer mode. What did we lose to Columbus besides Line?
Roslovic.
We lost Roslovic, and Appleton picked up the slack right away, and like we didn't even miss Roslovic, like he in terms of what he produced, right? So I see the same thing happening. So maybe the losses aren't so bad. Like the other fellows are big losses in the fourth line, like Perreault, Lewis, and Thompson. But again, fourth liners, like they just signed the guy. David Ritchie from Toronto. So like they also got, like I said, they got young guys just waiting to come up. So the fourth line, it's not like Maurice gave them that much ice time anyways, right? When things mattered, we saw that double overtime game where they didn't see the ice, right? So there's a triple overtime.
And just to point out, that's one of the reasons Frenchie signed with Montreal instead of taking another year here at a reduced salary, which he would have done the reduced salary apparently, but it was the amount of play time. He wasn't utilized as much as he thought he could be contributing, So that was a big deal for him, and that's one of the reasons he ended up signing in Montreal. Plus, he gets to play in front of, the team he grew up cheering for and all that. So.
And he probably will get a chance because there's a couple of key injuries there on the forward. Like Paul Byron, he's got hip surgery.
Yeah.
So he's going to be out for 5 months. And I can see Perreault slotting in the exact same role easily. Like third, fourth line guy can grind, play good D, and still have skill to score.
But we also have a lot of good talent on the roster that is underutilized. I mean, you mentioned Vesalainen and Harkins, but I remember Gustafsson also is there, just waiting in the wings for his shot. Toninato, and you know what I mean. We have very good forwards just sort of sitting in the wings, and even more so now after the draft. We've got some good guys in the system. Nate Schmidt added was good. So, but the biggest losses to me. I mean, Tucker Poolman is a guy you lose, and you don't like losing him in the dressing room, but he was being used as a top 4 defenseman, and he absolutely was not a top 4 defenseman. As much as I like the guy, that wasn't his bag. Mm-hmm. But when we have other young talent like Ville Heinola, and we ended up keeping Beaulieu and DeMello. Whether you like that or not, I don't know. I would have liked to see Beaulieu move on. Not that I hate the guy or anything. He's not a jerk or whatever. It isn't like an Evander Kane, please leave town kind of situation. But it's again, when he was on the ice, he was being used as one of those top 4 sort of guys a lot. And I really didn't think that he was capable of playing that way, playing at that level. And he was a liability out there, honestly, when we have too many good, talented players. Some younger guys too, like Nelson Nogier, Dylan Sandberg, Logan Stanley, who was completely underutilized this season. I think, he eventually got a lot of play time, but he was always one of those bubble players. Whether is he going to be in, is he not? Sami Niku, I feel like he was done a disservice last year with the amount of play time he was given. When you only have 2 games in the course of a 56-game season to prove yourself. I use 2 games. That's a bit of an exaggeration, I'm sure. But however many games he ended up actually playing, it wasn't a lot. So I want to see a better mix. I know that's not Paul Maurice's MO. He likes to put, here are 6 guys. We'll rotate people in when we absolutely have to. But I think getting those taxi squad guys games, bringing guys up for a couple of games out of the AHL every so often throughout the course of a season, especially if it's going to be a full season next year, if we're capable of having an 82-game season again, I really think that will help. Am I totally off base? Am I wrong? What do we think over here? Keith?
No, Zoner, you go. Sorry, I'll let Zoner take that one.
Oh, your turn. I've talked a lot.
No, I have
go
to.
first.
No, Mark, I definitely agree with what you have to say there. There's when you said DeMello staying here, I that's the thing. It's like, they're signing for just whatever. I didn't see my guy Dougie Hamilton make his way over here. He signed with New Jersey, unfortunately. But that's just it's very confusing about some of the guys that did stay here, though.
Like who? Like who in particular? Who's your most surprising keep? I think Beaulieu was my most surprising. Like, why did we keep him? DeMello,
because he's been out of this. He's been out of the the mix with that shoulder injury for quite a while. And then, like you were mentioning, that Sami Niku as well. Him just being done with his service and highly underused. And yeah, Logan Stanley highly overlooked, and very surprised that with the way that he was utilized and the amount that he was utilized, he was still protected, so they must have something for him. But I think that, maybe this is where his agent needs to step in and be like, okay, well, what are you doing with my player here?
Yeah. And also when on the Logan Stanley front, the big thing, I mean, if you read Reddit or you're on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, if you're a Jets fan and you're on any of those platforms following the Jets stuff, that if they had let Logan Stanley slip away, there would have been a riot in Winnipeg.
Yes, that's true.
People would have taken to the streets. It would have been a big deal. So keeping Logan Stanley, simply from a keep our fans happy point of view, was important this year. I really feel, because again, he wasn't given the platform to shine that I think he should be. He is by at least 3 inches the tallest player on the Jets, right?
Yes.
Is there anybody even close? He's a big guy, solid guy, super strong, smart. His skating got better as the season went on, I felt. But he's got to keep working on that, obviously. But I mean, the guy's what, 23 years old?
Yeah. Yeah. So he's got lots of room to grow. Tons
of headroom, tons of space, and I thought he was underused last year, but with all of the work that I know he's doing off ice this off season, you have to imagine he's going to have a bigger role come the following season. So, yeah,
probably going to train Gary Roberts this summer.
Well, he's got so much plus to his game, right? Long reach, hard worker, smart, heads up, not afraid to pinch, very smart in covering when his defensive partner pitches. Like, he's got a lot of positives to his game. His skating was definitely one of his weaknesses when the season started, but as the season went on, he was really working at that and trying to get to that top 4 skating caliber that we really need him to be. That's the one weak spot, I think, that if he gets that under control, he could be, and everybody uses the cliche, the next Bufflin. Sure.
No.
But like, he's going to be a strong, solid defenseman for whoever can pay him for a long time. If he figures out his skating, he's going to be worth all the money. Right?
So I agree with your positive outlook, but I think this season I don't see his utilization changing that much because of the additions of Dylan and Schmidt. Like, the top 4 is solid now, right? You got Morrissey, Schmidt, Dylan, and hopefully they re-sign Pionk soon. But it's hard to imagine him taking ice time away from any of those top 4 guys. So he's going to be fighting for, number 5, number 6 type minutes. So he might be second line in penalty kill. But other than that, he'll just be taking his regular shift with whoever's another bottom pairing D guy, which might be DeMello, maybe Beaulieu if DeMello's hurt. Right?
If DeMello's there, I see him as a 5-6, right? Yeah. But when you look at our defensive,
5 and 6 too. Yeah.
When you look at our defensive core, who are your top 4? Who's the top 4 that we have right now, given our roster? We'll start with Zoner and we'll go to Keith. Top 4 defensemen that we have right now. Who do you play together?
Yeah, I don't know who you play together, but I think it's obvious that Morrissey, Schmidt, Dylan, and Pionk should be the top 4. They should be the ones eating up, 80% of the ice time. Right? And there's who you put together. I think it depends on the chemistry and who should go where, right?
I just wanted to ask. Sorry, you said Dylan, Schmidt,
Dylan, Morrissey, and Pionk.
And
Neil Pionk.
But he's not
Pionk
even.
He's an RFA. I believe the Jets still have his rights. They need to re-sign him.
They have to re-sign him. He's not technically on the roster right now.
So he's eligible for arbitration. It'd be hard for him to leave unless the Jets trade him.
Right. But I just wanted to point out, as a point of clarification, he technically is not on the roster yet because he has yet to sign a contract. Did I lose you? I think I might have lost. We might have lost neutral zoner. So we'll go to Keith. Keith, do you agree? Are those your top 4, or are you changing one of them out, or what? So he said, Dylan. I lost your audio. Oh, hang on, folks. Interesting. Give me 1 second here. We'll sort this out. I'll throw up the Be Right Back screen, and we'll be back in 2 seconds after I sort out this small technical glitch and get Zoner back on the line. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. We got everybody back. Sorry, everybody. That was odd. That was odd. One thing screwed up, and then it totally messed up the audio on the other side. So I don't know what the heck happened there. But we're back. Neutral Zoner, you have audio?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and
Sweet.
clear.
We can hear you, and Mr. McKnight, we can hear you too. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Awesome.
So that was all right. That was crazy. But what
This
are
is
we?
what happens when you downplay the importance of Neil Pionk.
Right. Well, exactly. Right.
The audio goes all nuts.
Oh, it does. And I just wanted to be clear that he wasn't actually technically part of the roster. So
True.
we're gonna jump now. We were about to talk to Mr. McKnight and have him explain who his top four are. And just to remind everybody before all the confusion happened, it was Brendan Dillon, Nate Schmidt, Josh Morrissey, and Neil Pionk, who again technically isn't on the roster yet, for Neutral Zoner. And we're going to throw this now to Keith McKnight to agree, disagree, change things up, or what?
The four that I'm going to go with based on the roster that I'm looking at, obviously big Brendan Dillon fan. I'm going to throw him there. Been a big Villa Nola fan since he came in there. Thought he had a good friendship with Patrick Laine. Kind of thought that they would develop some chemistry. Clearly the team still likes him, so I've been a fan. I'm going to have to put him there. I know you said four, but it's hard to write off Sami Niku. It's very hard to write him off. And I have to add five here because I'm a very big Nate Schmidt fan, and Logan Stanley, like he's got to be there as well. So Nate Schmidt, just because one, I just want to see him do well, and it seems like he's ready to go here. Logan Stanley, of course, like with you both agreeing that the way he wasn't utilized in the playing time that he got just wasn't correct. He was always like on the bubble. So yeah, I'm gonna go with those five in the mix. Sorry to break the rules there.
You're such a troublemaker. You make things so
I
hard
know.
on me.
We always expect it from you, though.
Thank you. Thank you.
It wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be
That's
right,
right.
if you didn't break the rules.
That's right.
Exactly. I can't disagree with Schmidt, Dillon, and Morrissey. As much as I really think Morrissey had a really poor year last year, we know that he's capable of playing better hockey. So I'd like to see him play better this year to prove to everyone that he deserves to be in that top four. But his leadership skills alone are so valuable to Paul Maurice and to the dressing room. So there is a bit of that going on. So I thank you guys for your opinions on that. Now, are we happy where we are? Is there anything that we think that the Jets need to go do still?
Trademark Shifley.
This guy, broken record over here, just won't get rid of it. But and who do you think we should bring in to replace Mark Scheifele? Who? Because you're the guy that says let's trade Mark Scheifele all the time. Who can replace the man? Who?
Anybody. He's so expendable.
I don't know if you watched any games last year,
So expendable.
Now that he's a goon and going to be suspended every couple of games, then maybe he's right. Yeah.
Yep.
He's on the NHL blacklist, sort of like what's his name from the Rangers? Used to be. Oh shoot, I can see his face.
Oh,
so
Avery?
punchable. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Sean Avery?
Yeah. New Sean Avery.
Sean Avery is the epitome of the players that I hate. Like he
Yes.
is who I think when I think Brad Marchand and the way that he does stupid shit, licking people and stuff. Like I immediately go, that's some Sean Avery shit right there. Like, pardon my language, but honestly, I just want to punch him. He has you hit it on the head. He has such a punchable face. And we've talked about who has the most punchable face in the NHL before, but Sean Avery technically is not part of the NHL. So
That reminds me, Corey Perry got signed.
yeah, to the Lightning of all places.
Yeah.
That guy bounces around more than a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So, do you think he's going to have any success down there or what?
he surprised me in the playoffs. He's still a very serviceable player in the role that he does, and he's willing to do it. Like he's willing to go the dirty areas. He's willing
And
to
that's why he
play.
played on the fourth line, right?
Yeah, he's willing to play in the borderline, so to speak, right? And he's, he made it to the finals 2 years in a row, right? Stars, Canadians. Now he's going to the guys who beat him every time.
Yeah. Who beats me? I'm moving up. I'm moving up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Keep going.
and he's doing it for cheap too, right? So he's not like getting a huge raise or anything. So I think he's chasing a cup. He's on a mission.
Yeah, and I don't know why you would go to the defending champs, Like why?
Well,
You
he's
think that-
chasing the cup. That's
but
why.
but are you going to three-peat? Is that a thing? Like it's not going to happen. What are the odds?
But the odds are not high, but they're still pretty good. Despite the people they lost, they're a pretty good team still, right?
When was the last NHL three-peat?
Oh, that's a good trivia question. And it's probably back in the dark ages. Maybe wow.
Champs,
Montreal,
Yeah, maybe in like the 70s.
the 70s.
Yeah.
Because the Oilers dynasty was like 2, and then they lost, and they won 2. So I don't think they ever did.
There was no 3 in a row for Edmonton.
Oh, the Penguins.
They had 2 in a row.
After that,
They did a couple. They had back-to-backs a couple of times. Detroit
yeah,
in the 90s maybe had back-to-backs
yeah. But I
back
can't remember.
in the Yzerman Fedorov days.
Oh, and I have to Google this.
Hey, we're back in Yzerman days now. He's a Detroit Red Wing again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's the Islanders, 80s.
Yeah,
Forgot about the
the
Islanders.
80s. Okay, yeah. Remember
4
when
in a
the
row.
Islanders were good? Oh man, the Islanders don't, but
Yeah,
they're
last
trying to
year.
get there. They
They were
they
good
actually
last year.
they actually had a very good year last year. That's true. That's very true.
Yes, they did. How can you overlook that?
Sorry,
They
I
were-
just
they were
sometimes I
one-
get that confused with the other New York franchise that also absolutely sucks.
And they just traded for Ryan Reeves.
2027 is the year of the New York Rangers. Just wait and see.
The Rangers? Okay, I was thinking the Buffalo because they're also New York. So I was,
Oh, them. All right, that's right.
yeah, the bottom of the barrel. How can we be a worse team? That's the question.
That's just lately there's been so many NHL headlines that one almost got lost, right? Like
Well, exactly, right? There's so much stuff.
Eichel,
New team in the
Eichel
league.
versus
Da da da.
Buffalo.
Yeah, Eichel versus Buffalo. Eichel versus the state of New York. Like, yeah.
So now it's over his neck injury, right? And not being allowed to have surgery because the team
Needed
kind of
him.
backed out of. Well, the latest one was that the doctors agreed, yes, you need the surgery, but now they're saying no, you don't. But Eichel's own doctor saying yes, he does. And
How you deny a
now-
guy surgery? I don't get it.
Yeah. So now it's all out there in the Twitterverse or Instagram, whoever. I think it was Eichel's agent posted the whole sordid details. So the NHL is a lot of soap opera stuff going on, right? This very moment.
Speaking
Mhm.
of soap
that's
opera
going-
stuff and
Yeah.
people we hate, what do you think of the Kane situation right now?
Oh, as if whose wife rats them out?
His,
Yeah, like clearly, but I know, but like, wow, I can't believe this.
but I think this is part of divorce court.
Well, she's his partner in life, not his partner in crime.
Yeah.
So
and he's off in Europe partying without her. So, woman scorned. You can't go partying without your wife,
That's true.
oh, you can
and-
if you don't
and you
want to
can't-
keep your wife.
and you can't ghost her, right? Especially when she's got a kid and another one on the way that's yours. So it's at least that's the allegation. So again, it's not been proven in court, but unfortunately, this is one of those things that seems to be headed to court.
California lifestyle,
Trevor-
hey?
Trouble just follows Kane around, and
Well, does it follow him around or does he just go around crapping it out? Like the guy,
well,
everywhere he goes, he turns whatever situation into BS. Like he does that. That's him. That's not oh, like what an unlucky guy. That's him doing that to himself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
In his Jets days, I was trying to think, okay, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. But after a while, when the allegations start pouring on, it's like now it's like dozens of things, right? Like it's him.
That's just it, right? It's like
It's
one or
not
two
me,
things
it's
you're like,
you.
oh, that's unfortunate. But when it happens over and over and over and over to the same guy, there's a common denominator, and it's the guy, not the situations, right?
So I'm curious to see what the Sharks locker room looks like the next time he walks in, and what Brett Burns and Eric Carlson will say to him. Very curious.
Yeah, it's not like he's the big guy in the dressing room either, right? Like he's there because he's got a little bit of NHL talent and they're putting up with him. That he's not there because he's this superstar that no team can do without. He's not Connor McDavid. He's not you know what I mean? He's not changing games on his own. He's a solid player.
Well, the allegations are that he is.
That's fair point. Okay, fair. Well played. All right. But there is more in life in the NHL than the Jets. What to you was the best move by any team in the league during the draft, during the free agency frenzy? What to you was the best move made by any team? We're going to start with Mr. McKnight. Which guy do you think moved to what team that made that team the best? Who won the draft free agency?
Wow, that's really tough. That's a tough question because I like the New York Rangers move with Ryan Reeves. I like the Nick Ritchie signing with Toronto. And one thing that I'm really, really blown away about is Krejci leaving the Boston Bruins. And I'm going to have to say probably the Devils drafting Luke Hughes, maybe. I really, other than those 4 headlines that I have there, it's hard to pick one.
Yeah. There's a lot of positive movement in the NHL for
around the league, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Zoner, any insights?
I think on a personal level, Ryan Suter won. Because he's 36 years old. He got a 4-year contract. He got bought out by Minnesota. So for the next 4 years, he's going to be paid by 2 teams, one not to play and the other one to play. So he's getting 2 paychecks for the next 4 years. And the amount he's getting is going to be more than what he was originally going to get from Minnesota. So I think it's crazy the way NHL economics sometimes works. I don't know if he's going to be able to stand in 4 years, right? He's 36 years old. He's been extremely durable, and he's just one of those genetic freaks of nature, right? Like similar to Chris Chelios, who's still a good player at age 40, but eventually wheels fall out, right? Fall off.
Yeah. I mean, there are, as you mentioned, there's some exceptions. Chris Chelios, I think Jaromir Jagr played longer than he probably expected to in the NHL, and I think he's still playing in the K, isn't he?
Yeah, he's playing Platinum.
Yeah. I think he's in the second division now.
Yeah, he's the ageless wonder.
And he's the owner of the team, I believe.
Yes, yeah. They can't refuse him when you own the team.
I want to play. Whatever you say, boss. Yeah. So by your logic, then, I'm gonna throw out that maybe Tucker Poolman won. Because this guy is not a $10 million contract type player, but he got a $10 million 4-year $10 million contract in Vancouver. What were they thinking? You're paying that guy way more than he's worth. What were they like? Who is the scout in Vancouver that keeps taking overrated Jets players? Because Tyler Myers was the same situation.
it worked out so well that they decided to go back and grab Pullman.
Oh
They,
man.
Oh, you know what it is? Nolan Baumgartner, because the Moose and the Vancouver Canucks used to be
yeah,
affiliates back in the day. So maybe that's what has a lot to do with it. I think Nolan Baumgartner and his connection here, how he used to play for the Moose, he probably has a good relationship with that scouting department. So no,
So
they're
they've been
probably.
lying to him? That's not a good relationship.
That's what I mean. Yeah, no, no. I mean, yeah. Like, well,
the guy.
That's
guy.
I
that's
mean,
rough.
good for Pullman for getting paid.
I mean, you
Um,
can't fault the guy for getting the dollar bills. Like that guy, that sets
yeah,
his whole family up for life, even if he doesn't play any hockey after the 4 years is up. And it's not like he's got a huge risk of being hurt. He's not going to play that many minutes. Like
well,
he just
it's
isn't.
Vancouver. He might.
Oh, that's
I mean,
good point. Okay, fair enough.
there's some games after COVID where Myers is pretty close to the 30-minute mark. So
Oh
don't
well,
rule it out. Yeah,
but that was the COVID situation was an absolute.
yeah.
That will like I never happen again. I want to say that, but that will probably never happen again. So when you're that far down your depth chart, it's a problem. I get it, but I mean the guy, he's got he'll make $3 million in his first year, right?
So
With
there's
Vancouver.
yeah. So you bring up an interesting point. There's a couple of good contrasts there to be made between Winnipeg and Vancouver, right? So both teams had a weakness on the back end. But one GM did really well to get rid of 3 horrible contracts, dumped them on Phoenix. But then he turned around and signed Ulrich Larson's like a huge dollar figure, right? Or at least actually he didn't sign it. Phoenix has signed that one. But he's
yeah,
willing to pay
he
that
took it
now.
on. Yeah.
So he basically got rid of 3 bad contracts to pick up 1 bad one. So okay, maybe the math works out. It's better, right?
Because Ekman
But
Larson
then
is going to be paid. He's going to be paid till I think it's over
I think till the
7
end
million a
of time.
year. Yeah,
Yeah.
over 7 million a year until the 2027 season. I think.
Yeah. And then he signs Pullman, which is interesting.
Overpaying.
Overpaid. But he got a bargain on Brandon Sutter and he got a bargain on Luke Shen. So it's like, I don't know, like it's kind of a wash. Somebody on ESPN called then Jim Benning the Homer Simpson of the NHL. Like he keeps pulling all these boneheaded moves, but somehow at the end he survives, right? And I don't know how, but just he's still there.
Okay. There was a little bit of controversy during the draft, and we're going to touch on it here real briefly. I just want to get your initial thoughts. We're not going to delve into it. I talked about it for several minutes last week on the show. But now that I have some folks here to bounce it off of, this Mailloux that Montreal drafted had some legal issues when he was playing in Sweden as a minor, and there's all this, because Montreal's all about like character in the dressing room, character, and then they sign this guy who has a pretty sketchy sexual assault type of history, and again, super young guy, but they called him a promising talent. He asked not to be drafted. Montreal drafted him anyway, and what are your thoughts there? Like, do you agree that they should have drafted him? Should they not have drafted him? It's a sticky situation. What are your initial thoughts? We don't have to go super deep into it. Let's start with Zoner, and then we'll ask Mr. McKnight.
Oh, wow. I guess it's when are you contrite enough? When are you sincere in wanting to correct a wrong? So does that, he actually told them not to draft him, right? So
Yeah.
and he still picked him. I don't know. Like Montreal had the easy out when that he said please don't pick me because I want to work on myself, which is unheard of, right? So maybe he is sincere in wanting to fix himself and just put a statement out like that. So I don't know why Montreal would go out and do that unless they think I guess in sports, right? Talent wins over everything. This is why the Dallas Cowboys keep trading for convicted felons and
Yeah. Oh,
people like
you
that,
don't want
right?
him there
So
because he's a bad person, but he's a good player.
yeah,
We'll
yeah.
take him. We'll take him. We'll take him. We'll take him.
But he can catch a ball and
Yeah.
he can run a 4.40. So yeah, we want him. Yeah. Just tell him when his hearing is. Or tell us when his hearing is.
Yeah,
so we can cut him.
we'll work around his jail schedule. Anyway,
Yeah.
so what McKnight, thoughts?
Yeah, that's a tough one as well. To bring, I gotta agree with Zoner. It's like when you bring in like the background there, and like he wants to work on himself, and it's just like why would you pick somebody who doesn't want to be drafted? The only thing I can really think about is like the Eric Lindros saga.
Well, that's a little bit different.
That's
I don't-
yeah,
He just didn't want to go to Quebec.
yeah. You didn't want to go. Yeah, you're right.
I feel like
Wasn't-
that's not
wasn't
apples to apples.
Yeah, that's more like apples and oranges. Sorry, there, guys.
Yeah, that's more like
Apples.
apples and broccoli. Like that's
Apples and poutine.
yeah. Yeah.
You got Niagara Falls apples and Quebec poutine. They just didn't go, right? Like,
Just didn't do it.
he didn't want to go to Quebec.
Yeah, and he set hockey back in Canada a lot when he did that. Cuz he when he did that cuz everybody knew the money was in the States. Right?
That's
unless
true,
you were going to play in Montreal or in Toronto, you weren't going to get the money in Canada at that time. Right?
No.
So he really, and I have his OHL rookie card.
Ooh,
Oh.
that was worth a lot of money at one point.
Yeah, probably still is. Who knows?
Oh yeah.
But anyway, yeah, like I was a big Eric Lindros fan, and then he did that, and I was like, man, because at the time, I think when all that went down, I was living in Kingston, Ontario. My dad was in the military, so we moved around a bunch. But I think I was in Kingston, Ontario when that happened. So I used to go to the Frontenac games all the time, and we obviously in the OHL we played the 67s and the Generals and all those guys, right? So we got to see him quite a bit, and then when he did that, I just like, nope, not a fan of how you did all that. That was terrible. You did Quebec dirty. And literally, if you trace it back, that is the moment that Quebec Nordiques died. That was
Pretty
the
much,
moment.
Yeah, you're
Because then they,
Franchise,
because a couple, as a franchise. Because like
as a team, though, they did really well because they picked up Peter Forsberg and
And
a
they-
whole bunch of really good players.
and they had Matt
But
Sundin
they all
at the
moved
time,
to
didn't they?
Colorado.
Yeah.
They already had Sundin, yeah. But
They had
ended up
Sundin.
moving
Like
to
that was that
Colorado.
era.
Yeah.
That was that era. And so they weren't a bad team, but he didn't want to go there. He didn't want to play in Quebec, blah, blah, blah. And that was it. And he ruined that franchise by doing that. He was this big superstar, and he was just like, I'm not playing there. End of sentence. And then he didn't. Like he threw his tantrum, and that was it. They got rid of him, and that ruined the Quebec Nordiques as a franchise, ruined them, and they ended up going to Colorado. What? How many years later? Like 3 years later?
Was it that long? Might have
Well,
been. Look
anyway,
that up now.
we could look up those years, but I wasn't expecting that kind of devastation by one player. But when you have a superstar that refuses to play there, I was like, what's his name? Cristiano Ronaldo, when he sat down at the press conference and there were those bottles of Coke there because they were the sponsor, and he moves them out of the way. He's like, don't drink Coke, drink water. It's good for you. Coke lost so much money. It was crazy. That was hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so we moved way back into the past here. But this year, we were talking about Mayu, him being drafted, and
D'Angelo got signed by Carolina. He's another guy with a long history of controversy hanging around him.
I did not read anything about that.
So he's the one who got into a fight with his own goalie in the locker room in New York Rangers.
Yeah,
Cool.
I remember that.
Yeah. And then he got suspended by the team, and they bought him out, and promptly Carolina turned around and picked him up because they lost Dougie Hamilton. So we'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah, there's some interesting moves. What was like? What was the craziest move for you? Like the what were you thinking move? Because we talked about Tucker Pullman having won. So for me, the contrast to that would be Vancouver lost. I don't know what they were doing during the draft and during all I feel like they did a lot of damage to themselves during all of this. Am I wrong? Was there another team that sort of blew themselves
Arizona,
up?
I think Arizona, because they're perpetually everyone's dumping ground.
That is literally where players go to die.
So Vancouver actually, even despite all the dumb stuff this year, they actually did some smart things. Well, one smart thing, which is they got rid of those 3 untradeable contracts, right? To Arizona. That was Louis Erickson, Jay Beagle, and Antoine Roussel. All 3 were vastly overpaid. All 3 are no longer regular NHLers, but they're being paid like second liners, first liners. And somehow Benning said, "Okay, I'll take Larson, and I'll give you these 3 horrible guys. I'll give you a couple of draft picks." So yeah, he loses draft picks and stuff, but for Jim Benning, that's his MO. He doesn't mind losing draft picks. But still, like, how's Phoenix building? Like, they're perpetually getting draft picks from people. They don't have anyone around anymore that's to build around. Like Phil Kessel, like he's kind of at the end.
Yeah, that guy is overrated and overweight and overpaid.
Overrated, overweight.
So that's pretty much who goes to Phoenix, right? Like, you go there to retire.
Yeah, that's where careers go to die. That's like, it's so weird. It's this.
So I feel so bad for the Doan family, because Shane Doan was there for like 20 years, and now his son got picked by them. So who knows? That'd be like 2 generations of Doans ruined by the Coyotes franchise.
Here's the thing: if he's a good player, they'll trade him.
Yeah.
Right. So he might escape. And the best thing that could have happened is he starts there so he can get out of there. You know.
Yeah.
Because if he like. Do you remember when Toronto was really, really bad and they would get all these really talented young players, develop them up, and then trade them away for peanuts? Before Shanahan got in there and started righting that ship, he fired everybody in front of house and all that. Like that to me is like what Arizona is constantly. They're just absolutely not interested in keeping players around.
Yeah. It's sad. Very sad.
It's crazy.
Do they even have an owner? Does the league still own them?
The league and the city of Arizona stuck with all that money?
Yeah, I think the city bought the team, yeah.
Oh, boy.
The Jets apparently missed the sale by 4 minutes, and then they had to buy the Thrashers.
the city of Phoenix, or is it the state of Arizona?
Not sure.
One of the two. It's not a private owner.
I don't think it is a private owner.
Yeah, definitely not.
That's a good question. See, you know, so like we talk about all this hockey, and there's every once in a while there's like a question you're like, I have no idea. And who would think to ask that question at this point? Because it shouldn't be a thing. I'm Googling it. Who owns?
Google says Alex Marullo and Andrew Barroway.
Oh, so they found investors. Okay.
So hopefully they're both trillionaires with money to just throw away. Oh, yeah. One guy owns a casino. Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, he's definitely okay.
Rolling his winnings into the hockey team.
The Sahara Casino in Vegas. Yeah.
That's nuts.
Anyway.
Cool. So good to know.
Still around?
One last free agency thing to throw out there. I know Dougie Hamilton signed for was it $9 million? The Devils, and I know Keefe wanted him to come to Winnipeg, but $9 million, that price tag. Oh boy.
Yeah, the Jets would never have paid him that.
We basically got 2 guys for that one price, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
One for $10 million, and he's worth $9 million. But the one thing to keep an eye out on is that this means PK Subban is going to be a rental this year, so keep your eye open.
Does he still play? $9 million
as well. Barely. Well, no, that's not true. He was he was second on their team in ice time, but he's not the PK Subban of old, right?
No, he is the PK Subban of the analyst booth. That is, yeah.
But he might be one of those trade deadline guys. So a team that's looking for a power play quarterback, they might pick him up.
He'll end up in Seattle somewhere down the road.
Is that where you think is the new dumping ground? Seattle's coming in to save Arizona?
No, he'll fit in okay over there.
Arizona then.
Arizona. No, Chaika ruined that organization.
You can't ruin a turd.
All right, yeah, that's true.
That's a little rude, but I mean, like, Arizona is not a place that people want to go play hockey anymore. It just
Nope.
isn't. So, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? But, fellas, it has been a slice. Thank you for talking hockey with me and crapping on all the people I wanted to crap on, and it was good times. I appreciate having you on.
Thank you.
So we'll be back here next Sunday, 1 p.m. Join us. We do have another hour of content coming, but we're going to switch gears and talk soccer a little bit. We're going to be talking Valour FC, amongst other CPL stuff, I'm sure. But this means we're bidding goodbye to Keith and Zoner here. Thank you for joining us, folks. We're going to run our ad, and then we'll throw up the Be Right Back screen as I situate our next set of guests who are waiting in the wings. And we will be right back after this.
Right, let's go, Valour.
Go, Valour!
Valour, yes.
Make your house a better place to come home to with Aquatech Pool, Spa, and Bath. We've been delivering complete customer satisfaction for over 40 years. Whether it's a fully completed backyard escape, a completely renovated bathroom, or a premium upgrade on outdoor furniture, Aquatech is the only name you need to know. That's because if it's an Aquatech job, it's an Aquatech team working on it. No outsourcing, no subcontractors. We do it all. Visit our one-of-a-kind showroom today at 1065 Dugald Road. Aquatech Pool, Spa, and Bath. We create better places to come home to.
Thank you for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you coming back and being with us for the Valour FC talk. Right away, I've got a couple of guests, but first I just want to remind you, you can follow us on all the social medias, which is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch. If you want to support the stream, you can actually go to streamlabs.com/the WPG magazine. You do not have to do that. We do this because we are fans, not because we are looking to get paid, although we won't say no if you buy us a beer. That said, my guests today are First of all, it's AFC Curtis is a gentleman that runs a YouTube channel all about the CPL. How are you today, sir?
Good. You, Mark?
I'm doing all right. Can't complain too much. And this here is going to be Adam Johnston, who we've seen on the show a number of times. He is a founding member of Red River Rising, which is Valour FC's main support group. So how are you today, sir?
Not bad. Just got up from a little nap earlier, so I'm ready to go here.
Was that nap induced by the unfortunate loss suffered by Valour FC last night?
That a combination of other things, so I guess.
It was a rough one to watch last night, unfortunately, and I'm hoping that we can we can sort of talk about this in a positive way and see what good came out of that. I'm assuming you watched the match last night, so let's throw it to Curtis first. What was different about that game other than the fact that it wasn't played at IG Field?
I don't know. I feel like almost just being that first game on the road, that I think that kind of they just maybe had to get over that hump a little bit. And the last couple of matches that they had, whether it was a home or away match, technically it was still at home and they had home fans at. So I don't know. I want to say that maybe they just got to get used to that kind of atmosphere again. Other than that, I mean, it was just a weird game to me, I think.
Yeah, it definitely had. It was a very strange game. The way they were playing wasn't really their game. They seemed a little bit discombobulated, if I can use that word. It was a little. They were just disconnected a little bit. Adam, what were your thoughts?
Pretty much what you just said. It was a very weird game. I just think there's something missing with this team since Andrew Jean-Baptiste went down. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something here, but they just seemed a little flat yesterday.
Well, I mean, that's a bit to be expected given, they've played all of their games at home. They haven't played at Clark Stadium since 2019, I think, right? Because all the games last year were at the University of Prince Edward Island, for the Island Games tournament, which was cool to have, but it's not the same as playing a regular season. So it was probably very odd for them to be there. And Curtis, were you part of the post game, the press conference? Were you in there?
For last night's game, I was not. I missed out on that one.
Okay, well, let me fill you in, because the coach sits down and he's trying to talk, and it's just chaos. There's so much sound in the background, banging around, and the coach is trying to answer questions, but he's also looking around, going like, "What's happening? What are you doing? What's going on?" Like, there's a what is happening here? But he was certainly. He made it clear he was not a fan of the facilities there, between the field itself and where the players had to sit. He said there was nowhere for the camera guy and the social media guy to go, so he literally sat on our bench. And I didn't see the first goal because the fourth official was trying to make me move players that were where else were they supposed to go? So it was apparently Clark Field is not. It doesn't have the professional quality that some of the other facilities have. Let's put it that way. And so, he's doing his interview and there's people walking through, and it was really odd. It was really odd. But he clearly, there was a huge amount of distraction and unprofessional sort of situation happening. Sorry, in the game. So it was interesting to hear his thoughts on that after the game. So I didn't put that in my article, but I thought I would mention it here. So what are your thoughts on that? Like, playing in a stadium that, because obviously the CPL chose Winnipeg as the bubble because of the quality of our facilities, was one of the huge reasons. So between us and Hamilton, we probably have the two best facilities for the CPL in the league. Suffice it to say, the Clark Field might make the bottom of the list potentially. But what are your thoughts on that? What do you think about that? Let's go to Curtis first.
Yeah, I mean, so I do think, and in Ottawa too, you got to throw Ottawa in there as being another great facility for a professional football club. But outside of them, I mean, you look around the league, and they're kind of those like stadiums that they look cool on camera, but I feel like they're maybe lacking a little bit in some scenarios or some situations maybe. Definitely Clark Field, from what I've heard. I haven't physically been to the stadium yet, maybe this year, if not maybe next year. But I do know that it's very, very minimum. Maybe I think is maybe the best word to kind of use for this. Along with even like York Lions Stadium too, where it's pretty much just the one stand. I know for Clark Field, I've seen photos like in the off season and then in between games. It's really just the one stand, and I think they add in the temporary stands around it afterwards, and that's it. It's just a stand and a field. From pictures I've seen and people have talked to, that's what Clark Field is on non-game days, and then they just add in the stadiums and tents for everything. So I definitely wish that we could, have all these owners kind of invest money and kind of make them more temporary grounds. I understand why in the early years here that, some stadiums are going to be better than other stadiums. But I do wish that in order to qualify for the CPL, you kind of did have a little bit more to it. I don't know what the full setup is. Like, I don't know if they have a media ground box or anything at Clark Field, or stuff like that. But I would say Clark Field, from everything I've heard on, is probably toward the bottom, if not second worst stadium in the league.
And second worst to who in your?
Oh,
who are you going to throw under the bus here?
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, I watched
That's fine.
I watched the 905 Derby on was it Friday there, and I definitely can say I was not too pleased that the hard camera was pretty much looking at a field and nothing but trees in the background. I kind of wished it was a flip where we could see the fans at least. But I would say they're probably the other ones. Other than that, I think what Halifax did was great with the sea cans and stuff. They made it, I think, a better atmosphere. So I don't know why they couldn't do that at York Lions or even at especially at Clark Field, because I feel like they're almost there. They just have to add a little bit more.
And I mean,
But
it's not like, so you mentioned Halifax. Halifax, that stadium was not what it was. When the CPL took over to go play at the Wanderers grounds, they did a lot of work to the Wanderers grounds to make it what it is and to make it hold the number of people it holds and for facilities and stuff. So like last night on the broadcast, by the way, at halftime, they're showing people at the food truck, because they don't have, there's a food truck just parked behind the stands, and that's where you go get your food, which is cool. And I think that's what Halifax does too, right? But there's a way to do it where it's a nice presentation. It looks good. It has like a flow to it. There's space for it, and it's all accounted for. And it just felt like, Clark Field was a little bit slapped together, and it was not something that, based on the comments alone from Rob Gale last night, he was not ready for how. And he literally called it a gong show. Like, direct quote, he got up, he said, "What a gong show." Like, that was he called it chaos, he called it pandemonium, he called it a gong show. Like, these are all words, Rob Gale's words that he used. So, like, obviously that had such a huge effect on him. He's like, it's really hard to coach a game when you can't see parts of it because there's literally people standing in my way. So it was a bit ludicrous to me to hear a coach at a professional soccer match talking, when I asked him what the road was like, his response was, he was very like, he danced around it, but he wasn't very nice about it. He was political about it, but he wasn't kind. So, so then the question here to Adam: have you been to any other facilities in the league? And if so, or if not, how lucky do you feel being a fan of a team that has really good facilities here?
Actually, I'm gonna be honest. The only CPL facility that I've been to is just ours here in Winnipeg, IGF. That's it. Unfortunately, I have not had the opportunity to go visit others. But I find like the CPL like right now is like a mismatch of like top world class facilities like ours and Ottawa's and Hamilton's, but Forges. But and then the others is like kind of like almost like two-tier European-esque or third-tier European-esque style stadiums, like the one in Victoria, as well as like Edmonton seems like it looks nice on camera. Like, don't get me wrong, I think it looks like a nice setup on camera, but I don't know what it's like to be in there, so I can't really say. But York seems like it's like they just scratched these stadiums up, put them up, and that's it. I mean, I think there's a way to do pop-up stadiums properly. Like Halifax is a good example, and I think if the CPL wants to go that route for future expansion, they can, but they should have some certain requirements like how Halifax did it. So,
and again, like I haven't been to like I'm from Halifax. I haven't been to the stadium since they've done it. Like I used to play at Wanderers grounds, but obviously once there was a CPL team going in there, lots changed. Like it's a completely different sort of stadium right now. And but from all the pictures and all the videos and the fans having a good time, and you know the way that people talk about their experience of going there, I imagine that yes, it's not Tim Hortons Field, it's not IG Field, it isn't one of those like full on CFL caliber stadiums, but it has everything that makes the game really enjoyable for the fans. There's food, it's organized well, there's facilities for the teams, so their locker rooms and where they do all their their post-game stuff, and like they actually have facilities there, just because it isn't one singular standing structure the same way that we have it here. It's really cool to see. So I agree with you that I think there should be bare minimums, and I think Halifax, the way that they're set up, should be looked at as like, this is, if doing the most with the least. Halifax probably should win a prize, bang for buck.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think if the CPL like right at this moment, if owners aren't going to willing to invest in like brand new stand stadiums, I think pop-ups are the way to go. There has been done here with Halifax, but others like have done it in other places, like I think Phoenix and the USL. But like there has to be a way like to do it, and like a minimum standards moving forward. For the sake of like professionalism.
It's also it's a lesson learned, right? You got a brand new league that they've how many moving pieces there are when you're starting a league of this caliber. And for the first year, I thought, what a wonderful soccer league and what a great future we have if this is where we're starting.
Right.
But a couple of years later, unfortunately, we got bumped by COVID, so all these teams are trying to save their money, and there's no money to go into facility upgrades and fix this, fix that, upgrade this, upgrade that. So I get why a facility like Edmonton's could be second or third rate, but when it's literally something that a coach of one of your visiting teams is like, what the hell was that? That's a bad sign. That's a bad look on your city. That's a bad look on your club. And I think some priority should be given to making your facility something that your fans aren't embarrassed by when they show up. Yeah,
and it's something that other players are going to talk about too, right? To other players that want to look at coming into the league, and they're going to be like, well, how's Edmonton Stadium? Oh, your locker room is essentially back of a trailer, and not that it is, I don't know, but I'm just saying this could be like an example, so I definitely agree. I agree that there should be some kind of standard set, and again, the perfect thing about having a kind of like the pop-up situation that Halifax has is that it could be a great starting point and then from there you can just build on that after every couple of years. I think a player just told me from Halifax a couple of days ago that the stadium now could be expanded, I believe, to 8,000 is what he was being told.
Which is
So,
nuts. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You haven't, like, have you been to Wanderers grounds, Curtis?
I haven't. I've just been to Tim Hortons Field for the
Okay.
inaugural game. So
Okay, so let me tell you, having been there before, when I started seeing the numbers that were attending these games, I was like, how is that possible? Because I've played at the Wanderers grounds. Like, I don't understand how they made it such a wonderful, huge, 5,000 people experience. I don't get that. So you're saying they're expanding to 8,000. That sort of bends my brain a bit, because it's just like, I've been there, I've seen it, and I don't get it. But I'm excited, because it means like they're really taking, and Halifax is a city that when they do something, they do it. They either do it all the way, or they get all the way through the planning stage and go, if we can't do it to this standard, we're straight up not doing it. And that's the way that the city's always been. So I'm very excited and not at all surprised that they are taking this facility and turning it into something that other cities in the league will be jealous of. You started with stands that'll hold 2,000 people maybe, and then now you're talking about 8,000 people, plus you have all these facilities, and you're bringing these food trucks and doing such a smart thing with how they ran it. I just think more teams should look, and Edmonton especially should take a look at how Halifax is doing it and fix their stuff. That's personal opinion. But anyway, so facilities aside, the game was a little rough for Valour, but we got to see some new players. Who was of all the, because we saw Mastic Kasher, he made his debut in the last bubble game. I thought he looked pretty good despite the loss. And then we saw Brett Levi's was back. So he was back last night. We saw Buka Mutu back. He had a really rough tournament last year, injured in the first game, made it back. Did he play?
he got hurt in the second game he played and never played again. So he's
Yeah.
hasn't even completed the game yet.
It was the last round robin game or whatever. He made it on as a sub and got injured and had to leave. Yeah, so rough go for the guy. But I thought he looked, a little bit shaky yesterday, but you could see that the skills are there. And once he gets his feet back under him, I think he'll be a quality player. And who else did we see last night?
Rocco.
Oh, right, because they just
Romeo
signed Rocco
Romeo.
Romeo. Yeah. So, okay. So of all of the new people we saw, who was the most exciting? Let's start with Adam, and then we'll ask Curtis.
That's a good question. I think Rocco Romero did decent last night, but like I said, it's your first game, and obviously you need time to gel. So I'm hoping as these games advance that that these players especially him does get the opportunity to gel. So
yeah. So then Curtis, will throw you the same question.
For me, it's Brett Levi's. I mean, I feel like we haven't really seen what he can bring to Valour because he had some injury problems last year. This year, obviously, he's had some injury problems. It's just his entire career has just had bad luck with injury problems. But the quality is there. I mean, this is a guy that, when healthy, could be an MLS, I believe, regular. So I think he'd be a fantastic player on the left side there for Valour, especially if you play him higher up in an attacking position. Another one for me, too, is Mastic Kasher, who, from what I've seen highlight reels of from his USL days, another quality player that, again, I feel like we just haven't seen yet, even though they were here. Both players were there last year. I feel like we just haven't really seen what they can bring yet. So I do feel there's still another level that we can unlock here in Winnipeg with them. And then with that, I think they're going to be major players for us. And of course, Boku Matu there has got a great resume, great pedigree there. He's exciting. But for me, it's got to be Levi's, and then probably Mastic Kasher just right behind him at number 2.
Fair enough. Okay, so and I thought Romeo had a good game. I thought that third goal that they scored off the corner, I thought that was He mistimed his jump. The guy is 6'4", which is the same height as me, so I know exactly how tall he is. And he just mistimed the jump. I thought other than that, he played very well. He marked very well. He stepped up and stepped in when he needed to. His ball handling looked good. He's everything you expected when you're getting an MLS loanee, right? So the question now is he going to fill the hole left by AJB? So Jean-Baptiste out with an injury, potentially, and he's been talked about as, Andrew Jean-Baptiste, talked about as one of the best players in the league. Forget best players on our team, right? So
Yeah.
you want to talk about a guy who could play in the MLS on the regular basis, right? As you did with Brett Levi's. But I don't know. I think that's a big hole to fill. Can Romeo fill that? Between him and Rodrigo Reyes, those two guys are the guys that have to fill that gap. Can it be done? Are these the guys to do it? Curtis, thoughts?
I don't know, man. That's a huge hole to fill. I mean, I had him through the bubble until he got hurt there. I had Jean-Baptiste as my player of the year so far. I mean, the guy is phenomenal. He was so far this season the best center back for me. If he would have played the full 28 games and continued at the pace that he was on, I think you would be robbing him if you didn't put him at least as a Final Three nominee for Player of the Year, Defender of the Year. I mean, he's just that good, I think, and he should honestly be by next season in the MLS. He's just again that good. He should be a regular as a center back.
Don't tell Rob Gale that. He's completely said he's an MLS caliber player. That's not an invite. Back off, hands off. So just to be clear.
Yeah, no, yeah. So we want players that are MLS caliber to stay in the league because it makes the league better. But no, I think I just feel like it's just going to be a little bit too big. I mean, Romero is not an MLS regular. He's more of that right now quality of a USL championship maybe. Hence why he's loaned in the CPL and not an MLS guy on TFC. So
right.
I don't really think he can fill that. Reyes is an interesting pickup for Valour. I was really looking forward to watching this season because I think he's got the potential to be a really star center back in this league. But I don't know. I just feel like it's still out right now. The jury's still out. I mean, even Stefan Sabara too has looked really good at center back. Maybe he ends up being that guy that fills that hole, And he's really impressed me a lot this season. He really impressed me last year as a right back. This year as a center back, it's like he impresses me. So who knows?
Well,
maybe he's the one that.
And he was playing the wing yesterday, wasn't he? He was on
I believe so, yeah.
A midi winger. So I mean,
Yeah.
and he's wearing the captain armband because in the absence of Daryl Fordyce and Andrew Jean-Baptiste, who is now completely out for the season, that captaincy burden has fallen to Stefan Sabara, who I think absolutely deserves it, given the way he sort of sees the field, he communicates. He's definitely a guy that you could see wearing the armband, and I know you have to know that he feels proud to wear it, but the circumstances of his wearing it must be rough, knowing that you're only really wearing it because one of the best players in the league is unable to be on the field with you.
Sure.
So, Adam, thoughts on all that?
Yeah, when Andrew Jean-Baptiste went down, I just had a feeling it's going to be that's a big hole to fill. I think Romero and Reyes could help out. Cabrera has done well, but I don't know. Like I said, there's just something missing in this squad without AGB, and I'm hoping I'm wrong. Hopefully, those back line can gel quickly, especially after last night. But there's just something missing without him right now. So it's really hard to tell.
Yeah, it is hard to tell. It's only been 9 games so far. Can we take a second to talk about Edmonton? Because the match last night, FC Edmonton. So the Eddies, I thought that Valour sort of controlled the play a lot, but the couple of meltdowns led to some scrappy goals by FC Edmonton. And that second goal they earned it. That was a great run, great pass, great finish. That was absolute quality. Didic's header shouldn't have happened. Again, I truly think Romeo mistimed his jump. If he doesn't, that's not a goal. That's a clear. So one little mistake costs you a goal, you know?
Yeah.
There was that moment where Yared Uloa running to the sideline to stop a ball from going out, trying to save the throw-in somehow, boots it backwards and gives them a goal kick, or a corner kick, sorry. And I thought, that was an odd choice. Really strange mistake. But it was mistakes like that started happening later in the game. And FC Edmonton sort of backed Valour into a corner. What are we, because I mean, they've got 3 wins now on the year. So what are we thinking about FC Edmonton? Are they a good team? Are they a bad team? Did they get lucky last night? Do they have pieces? Are they a streaky team? What are our impressions? I'm going to throw it to you first, Curtis, because you cover all the CPL. You got a little bit more of your eyes on stuff out there, and then we'll throw it to Adam after for some follow up.
Yeah, I mean, with FC Edmonton, I had low expectations coming into the season. I didn't rank them too high in my season preview video, but they're just a team, like I said, I had low expectations, but they've kind of impressed me a little bit, game after game. Like, I remember watching that very first game of the season against Atletico Ottawa, and I think they lost that one 1-0, and I just like, oh yeah, this is just a weird team. The offense just isn't there. But then as I watched, and I'm actually think I went to all 8 of their games in the bubble in person, and I really got to see the system that they were playing, how they were playing it. This is a team that I thought coming into the season would rely on Ongaro to be scoring their goals, but I don't really think that's the case anymore. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, they're still going to rely on Ongaro to score. But I think he's only gotten, I think he just bagged his first goal against Valour this season. His first goal of the season, I should say, it was against Valour 2 days ago. So other than that, you got other guys are scoring. Fraser Aird has been fantastic. I mean, this guy, I don't know why he's not talked about more as a potential for player of the year this season. He's really been a huge player, impact player for FC Edmonton this season. Other than that, Kyle Porter's had his really good chances coming off the bench as the super sub, it seems. Really good system there. Soria is still playing fantastic level on his 3rd year now with the Eddies in the CPL. Amir Didic, he's got to be in the conversation still. It's one of the top 5 center backs at least, if not top 3 in the league. Potentially even number 1 now without Jean-Baptiste there out for the season. And Connor James is a starter, a bona fide starter in the CPL. Maybe not the best goalkeeper in the CPL, but he is a starter and he can get the job done when you need it done. And on top of that, they have a coach that's won the USL Championship Coach of the Year 3 years ago in 2018. Which is a level that's pretty similar to the CPL. So, I mean, they have the recipe, they have it all there, they have the tools to be competitive and to even challenge for top 4, which, I mean, I believe as of after match day 9, they're sitting 5th right now in the league, and they're only 2 or 3 points behind 4th. So, still 19 more games for them to go. I mean, anything can happen, and this team, I think people got to really take serious because as you can see against Valour at home, they won that game 3-1. Yes, they had some lucky breaks on that team, but as you were pointing out, the players that were making those mistakes were all players who are 21 and younger. If I'm not mistaken, I think Romero was around 2021. So they're taking advantage of the young players making kind of rookie mistakes, and they capitalize on them. And even then, that reminds me of going back to other games in the bubble where they just seem to be most of their goals in the bubble were taking advantage of bad mistakes from the opposing team. And yeah, you can say that's most goals, but they're doing it especially on those younger players. I remember the Fraser Aird goal was just right outside the big box there. He kicked it, and I think maybe it was even from center field, and he scored after a pretty bad Atletico Ottawa turnover that led to them getting possession, that led to a goal. So FC Edmonton impressed me a lot. And I think they're going to continue to impress this season. And honestly, they're a dark horse, in my opinion, right now to make it because they don't have to rely on Ongaro.
Well, going into last night's game, they had only conceded 7 goals, period, which is the second fewest to Valour, who had only at that point conceded 3. And then Valour doubles up on how many they concede by giving up 3. But the other thing was FC Edmonton had only scored 6 goals until yesterday. Now they've got 9 because they scored all 3 against Valour last night. So based on the statistics going into the game, nobody would have guessed that score line. Right?
Yeah.
So, and even Valour's goal was a goof. Like, it was an accident. Beccaro blasts it off of Uloa's butt, and it goes in the back of the net. Like, unfortunate goal for James, who up until that point, what was that, the 87th minute or something? He had a clean sheet going, and you get a bad bounce. But that first goal they scored was a little scrappy and lucky. The second goal was well earned, but came off of, like you said, Valour mistakes. They're capitalizing on those mistakes, and that third goal again, capitalizing on a mistake. Didic, who himself is 6'4", jumping up with brand new Rocco Romeo, who 6'4". Those are 2 big guys going up in the air, and I would say the wrong guy ended up with the ball, but FC Edmonton would say that the right guy ended up with the ball. So, it was a weird match to watch, because I was expecting them to be a lot more defensively responsible, and I felt like, aside from actual shots on target, Valour was able to sort of control a lot of that play. They just had no finish, and I don't know what happened there, because they started Akio and Ricci, and that was sort of the recipe for success. Was Akio's so fast you have to mark him, he's wide open, but he's not going to be your finisher, right? Your finisher is Austin Ricci. But when in the last game, they didn't play Ricci. They played Ricci solo without Akio, without Uloa. They didn't have that speedy guy to sort of draw defenders away, and Ricci got nothing. They ended up with 0 shots on target that game, didn't they?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it was like, I know at one point it was like 17-5 were the shot attempts, and it was 10-0 for shots on target. 10 shots on target in a like CPL matches, that's a high number. And of course, you talked about Connor James being one of the better goalies in the league. Jonathan Sirois, speaking of guys who could play in the MLS, and luckily CF Montreal has Pantemis, so that guy's going to be getting all the time on the field for CF Montreal, which leaves the loanee available in Jonathan Sirois, who I think absolutely is the best goaltender in the league. Thoughts? Is there a goaltender in this league better than Jonathan Sirois? Name him, because I dare you.
I think as the season goes on, Callum Irving was actually not dark horse, but my Golden Glove pick coming into the season. So I think if anybody is going to match him, I think it'd be Irving. Other than that, I mean, he's playing really good. I did not think he would be this good at such a young age. I think he's just turned 20 a month ago or something like that, right? Or 2 months ago. And he's got I think no professional experience before the season. So incredible. Hats off to him. He deserves all the praise, especially if he can go all the way and win the Golden Gloves this year. But other than that, my pick would have to be Irving.
Okay, fair enough. And we'll toss it to Adam. Thoughts on if there's a goalie in this league that might be better than Sirois?
That's a good question. Perhaps Darnell Henry from Forge outside of Sirois. Sirois is having a season to remember this early. Now, mind you, he let in 3 goals last night, but otherwise he's had a pretty good season so far. It'll be interesting to see if he can keep up the momentum for the next, 19 games. So,
yeah, and for me, I think if I had to pick somebody, I'd probably go with Dylan Powley. I thought, the team in front of him is not nearly as defensively responsible as other teams are in front of their keepers, and Dylan Powley has made a number of highlight reel stops against Valour and other clubs this season so far. So I think, he's a guy that their team can rely on, and if they could play a little bit better defense in front of him, he'd have a better year. I really think, because he's their absolute best defender. And I mean, no offense to Milovan Kapoor, who stands sort of in the front of him there, but Milovan Kapoor is the only defender who always knows what's happening with Ottawa. He's trying, he's when things are starting to collapse, he's the guy going, "Why are you here? Move over, move over." He's directing traffic a lot, and they're not a very organized back four in Ottawa. But I really think Dylan Powley has gotten them out of some trouble that they didn't deserve to get out of. So.
I would say, like, to talk about the Atletico Ottawa back four, I'd actually say Drew Becky has been really big and instrumental in terms of trying to organize it, even more than Kapoor is. Yeah, in the past, Kapoor last year I thought really was, but like this year, my two best players for Atletico Ottawa, I'd say, would be Powley and Becker, actually, and Becky, sorry, God.
Becker's a different guy.
Becky. Yeah.
Becker's another player, yeah.
Yeah, Drew Becky, though, I think has done really well. I think he wears the captain's armband for Atletico Ottawa, or at least he did in the one or two matches.
Him and Kapoor.
They rotated. Okay.
Yeah.
But
it's like a Baptiste Fordyce thing.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I think with Atletico Ottawa, like, I'm actually surprised about their back four not being as clean as they have been. The first two games they looked really good, and after that, all of a sudden, it's like the team's found them out. But yeah, I think Powley would be a good pick.
Right. Sorry. I had to cough, so I just had to mute my mic.
Okay.
You folks can hear me, but hopefully it didn't go through the stream. I had surgery in my face this week. I had some oral surgery, and it's a little tender, and we're powering through. It is what it is. So now that we've played our first game outside the bubble as Valour, so obviously we talked about, playing on the road. It's tough. It's different. We've 8 straight games at home with fans that are supporting you. Now you got, 1,000 people yelling at you, and not in a positive way. Pardon me. So, like, what are we thinking the rest of the season is going to look like for Valour? A lot of people are saying that Valour isn't for real, and that they're going to get taken over by Forge and Cavalry, but and Pacific, and those are the teams that everybody's going to be chasing. But I mean, even with the loss last night, Valour still sits in first place. So what are the projections, if you can make any guesses? This is obviously very guessy, but looking at the team that we have now, the pieces we have, and what the rest of the season and the schedule looks like, how do you think that Valour is going to fare in this series? Like, we had talked before the season, by the way, and Adam over there said, he would be happy with a 4th place finish. That would be a good spot, but anything better, obviously, bonus. But a 4th place is not out of reach at all. And now we're sitting in first, so overachieving a bit, absolutely, definitely more than people expected. But they've been finding goals, and the goalkeeping has been much better than we expected. So where are we at with that? What do you think, Curtis? What do you think our chances are going forward?
I said it all along since preseason. I think top 4. A lot of doubters outside of Winnipeg are like, nope. Even with the hot start, they're not going to finish top 4. But I mean, no. I don't think they'll finish first. I do think that they'll start to fall a little bit, just because Forge has been there before. I don't know how, but they just know how to always win at the end of the day. Cavalry FC, they have the quality to win. Just sometimes, like we've seen against PFC and even some other clubs in the bubble, it just, for whatever reason, they just don't show up that day and they just lose. They're such a weird team that way. Otherwise, I think they could be a champion as well. And Pacific FC, everyone's, one of those cool clubs everyone just loves because they got Marco Bustos and all.
There was another club that had Marco Bustos. I'm just jumping in because your video froze there. Is he frozen to you there, Adam?
I think he is frozen.
Oh,
there it is.
Yeah, we lost you there for a second.
Oh, there we go.
But yeah, you had sort of cut out when you were saying that they have Marco Bustos and that makes them a cool place and everybody's really interested. But there was another team in the league that had Marco Bustos at one point, and he's still a very classy guy. Adam can speak to that. When he stayed after the game when Pacific played Valour, and clapped to the fans and showed that respect, and that was cool. But yeah, you can continue where you left off there. I didn't mean to cut you off, but you sort of cut out.
Yeah, I might do that. Sorry, my Wi-Fi is not the best, but no, I think with Valor, I think they got the quality, they got the depth to finish top four, and you got to look at what the other clubs, let's say behind them, have in terms of depth or quality. You know, can Ottawa be top four? I don't think so. Can Edmonton be top four? I think they got good players, but I don't think the depth is necessarily there, like Winnipeg has. Trying to think other than that, Halifax there. King Garcia is just not looking himself this season. Just doesn't look fit. Kind of gets blown up toward the back half of the game. Just doesn't have that magic touch anymore. And then of course York United, which is such a young team with so much turnover. History shown in other leagues, even somewhat ours, that sometimes a lot of turnover doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be successful the next season to make the top four. So I think just based on looking what everyone else has, Valor should technically finish top four. I don't think they'll finish first or even second. I do think that they'll finish top four, though.
Okay, so that's and right now it's pretty precarious. They're only up on Pacific by the 1 point because they lost that game, so things are a little different. Adam, your thoughts? Where do you think, given where we got to now, the unexpected amount of goals we've scored, we're winning in the goal differential category, we're winning in goals, or we're second in goals for, we're the least scored on, I think, the least goals conceded. So
yeah, both against, yeah.
Yeah, after last night's game, I think because we scored on them, so that they have 7, we have 6. Yeah, so we are still the least scored on team. So where do you think we're at, Adam? Go ahead.
That's a good question. I still think top four is definitely not out of the realm. I think it's more and more realistic. I still would be ecstatic and thrilled for them to be in the top four. I still think that they're going to the Valours sometime is going to go through a rough patch, so we're going to be interested to see how they handle that. And if they can handle that very well, and then get back to a winning streak, then I think that would be the test of how well they're going to finish their season. And I think as well, if they can for the rest of the season win about half their games on the road or 30% on the road and draw the other third, I think they'd be doing well, and then win most of their games at home. I think that playoffs is not a question. Probably I could see them third or fourth. I can't see them winning the league. I see actually Pacific probably looks very strong right now, and maybe Forge second. And Calgary right now, they're the mystery box right now, out of the top four right now, to be honest. Something's missing with them this year.
You mentioned Forge, and they really don't look like the Forge that we saw the last 2 seasons, or the first season and then in the Island games last year. They're not as powerful. It just, something is missing there, and I'm not sure what changed. Do you have any sort of insight as to what is different this year for Forge versus last year, and why aren't they as successful? Curtis.
No, I actually think this is going back to last season, and I don't know if anybody watched their run in CONCACAF League, but I remember just getting frustrated because the quality's there. They can get the ball the final third, but as you're seeing this season, as well as late last season, is it just can't score for some reason. Or they can score 1 goal, and they can only score really through the penalty kick. And it's just, as a Forge fan, I'm sure it's frustrating. They are, at the end of the day, just able to, maybe it's because they have the right players, the right mentality, because of what they did in the year one, they kind of have that swagger to them, that they always end up, for the most part, especially in the CPL, winning and making it over that hump, like they did in the Island games toward the end. But if you look at their Island games run, I mean, the group stages, they were pretty good. The playoffs, they were pretty good. But you can kind of see the last game or two right before that final, it just felt like something was weird offensively where they couldn't score on certain opportunities. The final, they were able to get 2 goals, but was it the second goal was just a lucky shot and then bounced. It was a bad save by Oxner. It led to a big goal there, which pretty much sealed the deal. Otherwise, it probably would have only been 1 goal scored by Forge in that game in the final. And then throughout their CONCACAF run, I mean, how many games did we see them in that CONCACAF run where they just score one goal and that's it, or one goal and then a penalty kick goal, and then they go on to win 2-1 to make it through. So I feel like it's almost been on since last season. I think that they know it. I think they're trying to get over it. I think that the game against York, I believe, didn't they have a penalty kick goal in that game? If I'm not, I can't remember. I know the Babalui goal was an open play, but again, it just seems like they're just, I don't know. It's weird because they have the quality there that they should be scoring 3-4 goals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they always just at the end of the day seem like they just can get the job done. You know, this year is interesting because it is really wide open. I don't think it's a for sure that Forge is going to win this season, but based on just the mental state of those players, almost as it seems when they have these huge obstacles, they just always somehow get over it. They have that killer instinct, which I feel PFC we haven't really seen it in. Cavalry we for sure haven't seen it in. And I'm a Washington Capitals hockey fan, so I know for years what a killer instinct really means and why you need it, because when they finally got it, they won a championship. And Forge, you know, they have it. And you can tell just by watching them in those big, important games, they always show up. And, you know, look at them against the first game against Cavalry, for example. You know, they won that one 2-0, and they definitely deserved to win that one. That second one now, they lost the Cavs. But I don't know. Cavalry, again, they're all just a mystery box, like Adam said. You just flip a coin. That's how they're going to play that day, good or bad. So,
yeah. Well, hey, it's looking like Valour is going to have that sort of style too. When they show up on the field, you're not really sure which Valour is going to show up. Is it that killer instinct, drawing penalties in the box? Speaking of which, you mentioned penalty kicks. I feel like there's a lot more penalty kicks this season than we've seen in previous seasons. Was that maybe a result of the schedule being so tight and everybody's tired? It's easy to make those lazy mistakes in the box, or like, what do you think is contributing to that? Or am I crazy and that it isn't a higher percentage of penalty kicks?
Don't you remember last season with there was like the people were on Twitter calling it like Penalty Island, I think it was, or something, because we were saying penalties last season.
But again, that's a short tournament, and you know what I mean. Like,
True.
but compared to most competitions, MLS, even the first year of the actual season of the CPL, it just seems like there's a higher concentration of penalty kicks. You know, so am I crazy, or? I mean, I am
have
crazy.
To really
but
think about it and look at the numbers. I don't know how many exactly have there been for penalty kicks. Do you know?
Well, just in Valour games, they played 8 games and there were 5 penalty kicks. Three for us. Dyer scored
Seems
3.
like-
Sirwa stopped
seems like
one.
there are a few. Yeah.
And didn't Silva get scored on one, or was there only the 4? Maybe I'm just making stuff up in my head.
I don't think Silva, because that was against Letiquado, I don't think he faced a penalty kick. But now that you say it, because I know Forge for sure has had 3 this season, because that was like all of Mo's goals except for this last one.
Moses Dyer has all 3 of
lot.
his goals in penalty kick form.
And penalties, yeah. So maybe there is a lot. I don't know. For some reason, I'm just like thinking back, I'm like, you know what? Maybe there was a lot of penalties.
And maybe that's just me. And now that I've projected that into your head, you're just going to see them all the time. And But like, I'd like to know what that statistic is: the first year versus this year. You know, the first 8 games versus the first 8 games. But I think there is a higher concentration of them personally, and I also think that one of the biggest contributing factors is how tightly packed the schedule was. The players are worn down. You know, there's not a lot of training. There's shortened preseason. Not as much discipline because you're so tired. It's so hot. Playing in the middle of the day sometimes. Like there's been a lot of factors that lead to lazy defensive mistakes, which generally end in free kicks and unfortunately penalty kicks in your own box. So that's just been my observation. So I could be way off base. Feel free to let us know in the comments. It is, you know, it is what it is. But Adam, any thoughts on that? Am I crazy, or has there been a normal amount of penalty kicks and I've just sort of blowing them up in my head?
I think you're right. It just seems there's a little bit more there's more penalty box action this year, more penalty kicks, to be honest. Especially the Valour games you mentioned. So maybe it could be, you know, players are tired and from the bubble and that, and they're making these errors, and also on IGF on a hot field, like, because there was a lot of games being played in, like, really extremely hot conditions, and stuff like that happens. You make mistakes and you're in the penalty box. So
Yeah,
Sorry
there's
about
been
that.
a lot of, yeah, there's definitely been a lot of mistakes. I also feel like the refs, though, have kind of made some questionable calls in the box when it comes to penalties. I mean,
Yeah.
I would go back. I think Borges also had one in the bubble too, a penalty kick, and then I remember thinking like, and then for sure another one for Forge. I'm not just saying. I can only think of Forge examples, by the way. I'm not just saying that the league's giving Forge penalty kick calls.
Yeah,
I
they
don't want
love
fan
giving
bases,
Forge stuff,
But I mean,
But-
there has been. You talked about refereeing, and I don't want to get too in depth because we don't want to crap on the officials at all, or too much anyway. But there were some really strange decisions made this year. There was one game in particular that was out of control, and I forget which game it was. But I could go back because I was talking to my dad's a big soccer fan. He's a huge HFX. He lived back in Halifax, right? So he's a huge HFX fan. And so we were talking about it, and I was talking about one of the games, and I forget which game it was, but the referee absolutely did not have control of that game from the outset. But there's been weird calls where you're like, how is that not a penalty? And then you'll turn around and like the next player, like, how is that a penalty? And then especially, how is that a penalty if that wasn't a penalty? So there's been some inconsistency there. But overall, I feel like the refereeing was fairly consistent. You get to see the same referees over and over again in the bubble. So that was either good or bad, depending on your perception. But, when the games weren't called properly, I felt like they weren't biased.
Yeah.
Like when it was weird calls, it was weird calls, but both ways. So, I mean, if you're going to be an inconsistent referee, at least you're inconsistent in both directions. So,
right.
I thought the ref that called the first Forge Cavalry game, that ref did, from what I recall, a really good job at reffing and letting the play go when it needed to go, when it ended up leading to a goal too. I think one of the calls, or not calls, I guess, led to a goal. I think it was the second Forge goal for that game. But yeah, I think for the most part, they've been consistently fine. I mean, you got to also remember too, they never had a training camp as well to get up the shape, just like the players.
Right.
So that bubble was kind of them getting the rust off of not maybe reffing in almost a year. So
Yeah.
I kind of give them a pass because of that. But
that's fair.
I think from the last stretch of games here, I would like to see a little bit better quality of reffing and making sure you do get the calls right, because sometimes it could really mess a club's season up. They miss one game because of a bad call, could cost them a playoff spot now.
Yeah. But anyway, gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for being here. We're running out of time, so we're just going to sort of cut her there. Were there any final thoughts, or do we think that there's one thing that Valour can focus on going forward that's going to help them a lot? We'll start with Adam there.
Yeah, I think finishing is one thing, and also just improving the back line. I think after the last game is going to be key for them, moving forward. So I'm looking to see how that back line gels, and also the finishing on the other end for goals as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens for the next few games on this road trip for them.
All right, we'll toss it to Curtis.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Adam. It's finishing. I mean, some games they're scoring. I'm like, this is a championship team, and then in other games it's like they couldn't buy a goal, and it's just so frustrating. But for me, it's finishing. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So, well, again, thank you very much for joining me, fellas. Again, this is on the way over. It's AFC Curtis. You can follow him on his YouTube channel. Just look up AFC Curtis. You can also follow him on Twitter and Facebook and all that. I got your business card here somewhere, but we don't need to show that. The point is AFC Curtis. Just remember that. Check him out on YouTube. And you're welcome to join us anytime you like, Mr. Curtis. We appreciate you. Adam Johnston, thank you so much for being here as well. Founding member of Red River Rising. Appreciate you being here and taking the time with us today. You're also obviously welcome to come back anytime. You've been here a couple of times. You know the drill. And and to you out there in the the YouTube land, Facebook land, Twitch land, wherever you're watching, go ahead and let us know what you think in the comments. Whether you think, back to the NHL stuff we were talking about at the beginning or any of this Valour stuff. I want to thank you very much for watching. Remind you can follow us on all the social medias. That'll be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, all that. And you can give us a call or text on the WPG Sports line, 431-800-4555. You can also reach us by email, thelz@thewpg.ca. So again, we will see you next time in the LZ.